How is the health of the stocks in your portfolio? This healthcare REIT has an annual dividend that is 4 times the yield of the S&P 500. Let's take a look. Consider this. 10,000 baby boomers are reaching full retirement age every single day. No wonder then that this segment of the population for those 75 years and older is experiencing 7 times faster growth than the average and is expected to account for 34 million people by 2030. This is why hospitals may be unbeatable as a recession-proof equity investment. This is the story of Medical Properties Trust. The symbol is MPW, the only pure-play hospital REIT today. It owns a portfolio of over 275 properties, which are leased to over 30 operators. The great majority of these assets are general acute care hospitals, but there is diversification into other specialty hospitals, including inpatient rehabilitation and long-term acute care. The MPW portfolio of assets is well diversified across different geographies with properties in 29 states that helps reduce the risk of overbuilding. On top of its U.S. portfolio, MPW maintains exposure to key European markets including Germany, the UK, and Italy. This chart here shows the normalized FFO for MPW over the last 8 years. And FFO means the funds from operation, and there is no pun intended. And for MPW, the bottom line has grown every single year with the annual average exceeding 8% for the last 8 years. And yet the company trades at just 9.2 times FFO with a 7.7% dividend yield, which is well covered at a 69% payout ratio. So the company combines the lower risk of a defensive sector with high yield and high growth. In 2018, the company guided to grow by another 6.6%, and after a strong first quarter, it reaffirmed the guidance. The management also noted that the future prospects for growth remain favorable with a significant pipeline. So with this in mind, the current valuation may be too low for a company that is achieving high growth and operating at a lower risk business. And this is the 20-year monthly chart on Medical Properties Trust, MPW. Current price here, $13.13. Going back to 2005 or so, looks like we have somewhat of an interesting pattern every once in a while. Looks like we have an uptrend, then a downtrend, and stabilization. Into 2009, great financial crisis, we had a pretty good downtrend. But after that, we had the uptrend, downtrend, a little bit of stabilization, not much, but uptrend, downtrend, stabilization, up, down, stable, up, down, a little bit of stabilization, then with another drop here. But then we went back up, down, and then we're in a stabilization phase through here. So if the pattern repeats, we might expect a little bit of appreciation coming, but we'll get back to that here in a moment. Let's move on down to the MACD, and we're just under zero here with a fast line trying to move through the trigger line, but it's not at a very, very steep rise. So, but I would imagine that'll happen here relatively soon. Moving on down to the histogram, and you're going to probably start seeing another interesting pattern that I see as well, and it looks like somewhat of a pennant or a flag or a wedge in some of these oscillators. Moving down here, I'm not sure that really is going to mean much, but it just is interesting to see, and we see that also here in the price rate of change moving on down to this point. I'm not sure if that's going to indicate that the upward move, if it happens to be an upward move, pops out of this flag or wedge We will see, but I wouldn't bet on it. Moving down here into the relative strength, much the same, just moving through the midline or the 50 there into the stochastics. Had somewhat of a predictable pattern here for several years, up and down, up and down. Lately, we bottomed here, and it looks like we're attempting to have a move on up into the volume. The volume has increased, which is good, shows that it is a healthy stock. Again, no pun intended, and a bottom here with an upward move recently in 2018. Back up to the price chart. If you're looking closely at this, make sure that you understand that for the most part, and certainly for the last several years, there's not been a lot of appreciation in the price. So don't have that as an expectation. This stock here, you would hold in your portfolio primarily for the dividend. So with that in mind, always continue your fundamental analysis. As a disclosure, I do not hold MPW at this time. But for you, if you want to have this in your portfolio, it might be good with regard to the relatively strong population statistics with regard to how many baby boomers are retiring every day, every year. I would imagine that Medical Properties Trust is going to be a relatively stable, strong REIT for the foreseeable future. So for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.